Hey everyone, hope you're all keeping well and doing well with the Lord. Here's another little devotional thought for you this morning. I know our circumstances are still really difficult circumstances. What can we say? The COVID-19 pandemic is still ongoing. There's still a lot of economic uncertainty. And now with the quarantine that's been in effect now for a few weeks, even if you're still working from home and money's coming in and you don't know anyone who's fallen ill yet personally, I bet that the stress of just this state of affairs, being locked in your four walls, is putting pressure on the internal cracks that we all have, whether they be emotional, psychological, or relational, or what have you. I think there's something now that we can all kind of get together and experience, sharing an experience of a lack of peace. Now, coming up, our new sermon series, Peace Be Still, is going to talk about the peace of God in all circumstances. So maybe this is a bit of a primer. Last time I jumped on here for a little devotional moment, I spoke about gratitude and thankfulness in all circumstances. And today the Spirit's leading me to speak on a similar note, and that's about joy. Now, I think one of the most famous verses that we have regarding the peace of God actually comes in Paul's letter to the Philippians. He's writing this from prison, so his circumstances are really ugly at that time. And in chapter 4, verse 6 and 7, he writes about it. He actually says, don't worry about anything. Just go to God in prayer, and the peace of God will guard your hearts and your minds. It's a really bold statement. And I really clung to that verse a lot in the last few weeks. But the other day I was reading a book called Soul Care by Dr. Rob Reimer. And he's sharing a personal experience where he's going through a really difficult season in his life. And he shares about this from this passage. But he doesn't start at verse 6, and this caught me off guard, and I wanted to share that. He starts at verse 4. I always kind of skipped it, because the word rejoice has kind of lost meaning for me, I guess, as growing up and hearing that word kind of used over and over again. So I'm really rediscovering these past few days, so I want to share that. It goes, so this is Paul, now talking before he says, don't worry about anything, and about the peace of God, guarding your hearts and minds. He says, rejoice in the Lord always. I'll say it again. Rejoice. See, we often think, this idea of this joy, right? Rejoice, you're filled with joy and you just share it out. We think that comes after we have all this positive and good feelings, right? Now I can go and share. See, this idea of rejoicing, I know it's tied in with joy, but we also see this as an expression of worship, right? We have a deep joy that we're bringing out and putting before God and for other people to see. And even in difficult circumstances, we can go to God and we can express that. We can worship. And what Reimer was sharing is that in the midst of these nights where he was struggling deeply, in order to find and to gain the peace of God and to be in that good place, he had to spend a couple hours sometimes of worship before he could feel that way. See, what happens here is that when we worship, we go before God and worship, even when we're feeling negative, we're feeling lack of peace, we're focusing on God. See, our circumstances are always going to have something negative in them, right? They're out of our control. No matter if they're good circumstances, by and large, or circumstances like now, we're always going to find something that's going to drag us down, that's going to, mix us up, make us feel anxious, or make us feel fear, make us feel negative. We can't look to our circumstances. We can't control our circumstances. God, however, we can always look to him. See, God is unchanging, and he is faithful. So those promises that he gives us, promise of peace, promise of goodness, promise of an eternal relationship with him that doesn't change, we hold on to that in all seasons, in all times. So when we worship, we just kind of part our circumstances, push them aside, and we focus on God, and we focus on his promise. We focus on our relationship with him. And in doing that, we are able to feel and experience the peace that he wants for us, that he gives us. In those moments, we can come to say that God, no matter my circumstances, my relationship with you is enough and is all that I need. And through that, we find the peace of God. So I want to encourage you, no matter how you're feeling in your heart right now, go to the Lord and worship. It's going to look different for everybody. Maybe it's at first a prayer just to ask to remove a blockage, to go through and pray through some psalms, some laments, or even just to sing loud music for to the Lord. Whatever your heart calls you to do, I just encourage you to go out and worship and rejoice in Him in order to find the peace that He has for you. God bless.